Lingerie maker Caely Holdings has confirmed that the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission has issued a freeze order on all the operational bank accounts of the company and its subsidiaries. In a reply to a query from Bursa Malaysia, Caely clarified that the freezing order by the MACC was never served on the company, but that it had merely received the notice from one of its banks, namely CIMB Bank, on April 13th that the company's accounts had been frozen. It adds that it does not have any knowledge on the length of the freezing order. In a statement, Executive Director and CEO Lim Chi Pang said that the unfreezing or partial unfreezing of its bank accounts are its top priority and that it is monitoring the situation closely. Lim also confirms that Caely is in contact with the authorities and will extend whatever cooperation or assistance that is needed to resolve the matter. With all its accounts frozen, Caely is unable to make any payment to suppliers, salary banks or any party, which exposes it to potential lawsuits and claims for breach of contracts. It is currently seeking legal advice on the courses of action that can be taken. On Monday, Caely announced that an authority had issued a freeze order on the bank accounts of its group of companies but was unaware of any wrongdoing. Earlier on April 7, Caely had announced that Virdos Lim Consultancy Malaysia had been appointed as the forensic auditor to carry out an independent audit on allegations of suspicious and irregular transactions. It had cited that one of its independent non-executive directors had received an anonymous letter package containing documents raising concerns on several suspicious transactions involving Caely as the circumstances leading to the forensic investigation. It had said that it expects the investigation to be completed by May 31st. Caely's 2021 annual report showed that its substantial shareholders comprised Penang-based businessman Datuk Sri Goh Chun Kim, while Executive Director Datin Fong Nyok Yun and spouse Datuk Chua Chin Lai, who was also formerly Caely's MD, jointly hold 13.07%. Executive Chairman and Public Gold Group's founder Datuk Wira Louis Ng Chun Hao holds 25.26% as at July 30th, 2021. Axiata Group confirmed that its 63% owned subsidiary EDOTCO Group's unit ISOC EDOTCO Towers Inc. is buying 2,973 telecommunications towers and related assets in the Philippines from PLDT Group. The deal is worth 42 billion Philippine pesos and will help ISOC EDOTCO establish a platform to accelerate organic and inorganic growth. PLDT is Philippines' largest fully integrated telco company listed on the Philippine Stock Exchange, and its American depository shares are listed on the NYSE. Axiata says the transaction will be funded through a combination of internally generated funds and external funding and is expected to be completed by December 31st, 2022. The telco also says that the proposed acquisition of the Philippines telecommunication assets will give ISOC EDOTCO, among others, exposure to a high-growth market. Axiata says that this transaction increased EDOTCO's exposure to the stable, fast-growing emerging markets while diversifying its portfolio from the frontier markets. In particular, the Philippines presents a unique high-growth opportunity in a nascent tower market with strong governmental support and significant infrastructure needs. The group says that post-transaction, EDOTCO will cement its position as the sixth largest independent tower company globally and will be operating and managing a diversified portfolio of approximately 54,000 towers across Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, and Sri Lanka. Fugitive Low-Tech Joe might have downplayed the extent of 1MDB's debts in an email and attachment to the company's former CFO, Azmi Tahir, ahead of a scheduled meeting with KPMG. Azmi testified today at the 1MDB Tanore trial. The meeting was over 1MDB's financial statements for the year ending March 2013, which the auditor had problems reconciling. Cross-examined by Wan Aizuddin Wan Mohammed, lawyer of XPM Datuk Sri Najib Razak, Azmi agreed that he received an email from the businessman sometime on November 28, 2013. The 13th prosecution witness said the email from dealrainman1@gmail.com was Lowe's email and that the accompanying attachment was for the purpose of his discussion with KPMG. It also came out today that KPMG was adamant that it should meet Najib before signing off on its audit of 1MDB's financial statements for 2013. During that time, Azmi said KPMG had refused to sign off on its audit of the strategic development company because it was dissatisfied dissatisfied with the inadequate explanations and documents provided in relation to 1MDB's huge overseas investment of $2.3 billion in an unknown fund, Bridge Global SPC, that was made through Brazen Sky, a special purpose vehicle of 1MDB. However, 1MDB then terminated KPMG and replaced it with Deloitte. Azmi testified that Deloitte was the only large auditing firm willing to take over as 1MDB's auditor, as it was the only one of the Big Four audit companies left. The ringgit had on Wednesday depreciated past 4.2800 against the US dollar, its weakest level versus the greenback since June 2020. This comes after the US dollar index, which measures the value of the US dollar against a basket of currencies, rose above 101 for the first time in 2 years in anticipation that the US will accelerate its interest rate hikes to curb inflation. This as the greenback hit a 20-year high against the yen and tested a 2-year peak on the euro. As at time of this recording, the ringgit stood at 4.2830 versus the previous close of 4.2530. DBS Group Research noted on Monday that the gyrations in the global rate space are no longer solely dominated by the US Federal Reserve. The report said that attention has now shifted to the European Central Bank and perhaps greater recognition that fiscal policies might stay loose in the Eurozone for some time. With the International Monetary Fund pulling its global growth projection below 4%, most emerging Asian currencies depreciated and remain under pressure, according to DBS. DBS's forecast for the ringgit is 4.30 by the end of the third quarter of 2022. Ace Market-bound MN Holdings says that its initial public offering's public portion was oversubscribed by 118.48 times after 17,205 applications seeking 2.44 billion new shares valued at 512.81 million were received from the Malaysian public. The company is slated to go public on April 28th. The Underground Utilities and Substation Engineering Specialist IPO involves a public issue of 81.75 million new shares and an offer for sale of 40.88 million existing shares in the company at 21 cents each. In a statement, MD Lois Yong Hei says the new share oversubscription from the Malaysian public is a vote of confidence for the company's business model and growth strategies. He says going forward, MNH will strive to secure more contracts and build its order book by leveraging on its competitive strengths. According to MNH, it has a total order book of approximately 172.2 million as at March 9th, comprising 135.4 million from the underground utilities, engineering services and solutions segment, and 36.8 million from the substation engineering services and solutions segment.